Down to the feature match area. There you can see first pack laid out on the table. He is one of our 8-0 players. 3 players were undefeated overnight. Christoffer Andersen was one of them.
Yeah, we didn't really get to watch Chris in the feature match area yesterday, but he, silently tore up the entire tournament. He's one of our 4 undefeated players. He's in great position. If you don't know Chris, he is an outstanding player on the StarCityGames.com tournament circuit. But what we don't know about him is his prowess in booster draft. So let's see what happens here.
All right, well, here we go. Quick look through pack number 1. There's a Steel Leaf Champion, kind of hard to cast, but pretty powerful in the back. Fiery Intervention, and a Skizik, and a Deathbloom Thallid as well. What are you inclined towards here, Reed?
I'm looking at the Steel Leaf Champion. Now, I understand not wanting to commit to a triple color card in your first pick, but I've actually had good experiences just diving in on Steel Leaf Champion, particularly with Llanowar Elves being one of the strongest green commons. This is a card that can allow you to get really insane draws when you get lucky with it. And you know what? Even when you cast it on turn 5, that's still an above rate card.
All right, so Christoffer is going with Skizik here as his pack 1, pick 1. Powerful card.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it wouldn't have been my choice, but not a bad way to start a draft. This is a really nice aggressive card, and red is a color that there's a lot to like about in Dominaria.
Blast from the past as well. All right, let's take a look here on pack number 2, On Sarah's Wings. Very high power level card, but again, it's an aura. Get to Journey Mage in here, Pegasus Courser. What are you looking at?
Well, particularly given that Chris seemed to make a noticeable effort to go into red in his first pick, I would expect him to take Gitu Journey Mage here. Sulphur Falls actually stands out because we have mentioned that Blue-Red Wizards is one of the forefront archetypes of the format, a really effective card that a lot of these strong players are going for. But, if you're going to be Blue-Red Wizards, I would probably be just as happy with Gitu Journey Mage as Sulphur Falls. So I think that pick makes a lot of sense.
How do you like playing Gitu Journey Mage in a deck that's not Blue-Red Wizards?
It's not great, but 3 mana for 3/2 is not bad as one of the filler cards in your deck, and if you even have 3 or 4 ways to trigger it and your deck's kind of aggressive, it's passable. But it's going to be really strong only if you're that dedicated Wizards deck.
All right, Uguros, the empty one in this pack here as a legendary flyer. Get to Lava Runner and Academy Drake kind of standing out for me. He has them pulled to the front of his pack.
Well, he could certainly stay on track with Gitu Lava Runner. It's not a powerful card and not what he's hoping to pick 4th, but it does fit really well with what he has. Academy Drake, similarly, if you really expect blue to be the most likely second color for you to move in, that pick makes sense. I think it's a little weaker than Urgaros, but certainly a defensible pick, particularly if Chris has a lot of experience with blue-red, and that's the direction he envisions his draft going anyway.
Coldwater Snapper in this pack. How about another Academy Drake pulled to the front, as well as a Memorial to Genius?
The real standout card that I see here is the Spore Crown Thallid.
Yes.
Seeing that card late indicates that the players passing to me are not interested in green. It's not, necessarily a strong enough card that I'm going to drop everything I'm doing and move into it, but he's got Skizik also, which is strong in the green-red kicker deck. But that's sort of a sidetrack, and I don't blame Chris for taking Memorial to Genius. Just, keep it simple, keep it safe, and stick to blue-red where you can't go too wrong.
Do you like the Memorial here over the second Drake as well?
I do. I think it's something that you brought up yesterday, the fact that Memorial doesn't cost a card slot in your deck. The marginal upgrade from Island to Memorial of Genius usually larger than the marginal upgrade of Academy, or of, Tolarian Scholar to Academy Drake, whatever it's going to wind up being.
Well, not a whole heck of a lot here in this pack for Christoffer. Looks like he's debating between this Joyra's Familiar here. Yeah,
he looks like he might be getting into a little bit of trouble as he really hasn't seen any red cards. He went out of his way to pick some average level red cards early in the draft and then has not seen a removal spell, has not seen anything to indicate that red's going to come to him. So he might be trying to think if there's an escape route here, if there's any way he can adjust his strategy and find something else to move into, but it's kind of late in the pack. He's not seeing super strong cards. It's going to be tough.
What color do you think he should be considering right now?
Well, he did see that Spore Crown Thallid, which I think was the strongest individual signal that he's seen so far, but it also seems that, as we're getting later into the pack, the middling cards that are left, the white ones are the best. But, these are the toughest types of drafts where you kind of know that the path you're on is not going to work out great, but there's not a clear turning point where you can go to something else. If I'm Chris, I'm probably just, putting my head down and continuing to focus on blue-red, and hopefully he'll get a really good pack 2 because he forced these colors pretty hard, didn't pass much downstream. And we do know that blue-red is a really strong archetype, so even if you get an average or below average version of it, you can definitely win some matches.
Rampaging Cyclops is a pickup there for Chris. Radiating Lightning in this pack, as well as a Tolarian Sculler, which is a pretty, perfectly serviceable card if you're running blue-red Wizards.
Yeah, I would definitely take the Scholar here. Again, not an exciting card, but particularly when your draft is not going great, that's the type of card you want to just lock up while you can to make sure that you're not gonna wind up short on playables or short on creatures.
We kind of saw Christoffer kind of hedging between a Champion of the Flame and that Rampaging Cyclops a couple of picks ago, wondering if maybe I could go all in on some crazy nonsense here, but decided to go with the 4/4 instead.
So here you see Ancient Animus as, again, strongest card in the pack. Not amazing. I'm not saying Chris should take it, but just something that he should put in the back of his head that green is coming from this direction.
Short Sword here in the pack, and 0 cards in either blue or red.
By the way, we should mention the viewers just watched Brian Braunduin's draft. He is largely on the other side of the table as Chris. It's Chris passing to Matthew Hoey, passing to Matthew Nikolai, passing to Brian Braunduin. And we actually saw a lot of these really late green cards getting to Brian in pack 1, but they are not sitting near each other at the table.
I have a question just generally about when you're doing these time drafts. How hard is it to remember, from one draft to the next? They might kind of bleed together for you doing so many. What exactly you saw going around the table?
Well, actually, I had a conversation about this at dinner last night with Owen Turnwald and Matthew Baccio, and the conclusion we came to is kind of like, you just remember as much as you can. You're never going to get every detail right, but as many of these like little mental snapshots that you can hold in your head, the better. Okay, I noticed that I've passed a couple of Run Amucks, so that's a card that I'm going to expect to play against in the draft. Okay, I noticed that green cards were coming late in pack 1, so if I open a Multani, that's something that's going to inform my decision. You're never going to remember every single thing, and there's going to be a lot of useless information that you're carrying that doesn't really help you with any important decisions. But the more focus you can maintain during the draft, and the more of this stuff you can grasp onto, the better able to make those tough decisions later.
It actually strikes me that you were having this conversation last night, too. I mean, you don't stop talking about this stuff, even though you've done, thousands and thousands of drafts.
Well, hey, it's particularly after a day that I spend watching Magic and not playing.
Yeah.
All I want to do is
right?
is talk about it, analyze and learn and stuff like that.
All right, so what do you make so far of what Christoffer has assembled?
The draft is going badly for him. He went in, I think, with a strong proclivity towards this archetype. He, in my opinion, correctly identified it as one of the absolute best archetypes in the format, but he did not open well, and the colors weren't open, and he's got a pretty below average pile of cards here. So I'm not saying that it's a disaster that he loses or anything like that, or he's going to go 0-3, but pack 1 did not go the way he wants. I think pack 2 will be good for him, and if he can get a little bit fortunate in the cards that are opened, he can put together a good deck, but so far the start is not good.
Remember, we saw earlier Brian Braunduin drafting a green-white deck, which was 2 seats away from Christoffer. So he's passing to him this pack, and this way it will be being fed by him.
Yeah, two people in between Christoffer and
yes. Brian. That Spore Crown Thallid, though, I just see that and I'm like, oh no, what have I done?
Yeah, the first time you see that, it can be kind of an unassuming card, like, Thallids, there's
sure
saplings and funguses. There's probably a couple of those in the set, but actually when you see the really, really nice black-green sapling decks come together, Spore Crown Thallid can be amazing, a really scary card to play against.
How are you generally on somebody sitting down and saying, hey, I like this archetype, I'm going to try and force it if at all possible?
I think it's totally reasonable. I think it's under 2 circumstances it can be a good idea. Number one is if you had a limited amount of time to prepare for the tournament, and I think that's probably the case for a lot of people in the room at U.S. Nationals, particularly because it's a split format event, so you have to divide your limited amount of preparation time between standard and draft. Probably can't learn 50 different draft archetypes and master them all. And then the other is if you've just played so much and identified without a doubt, you know what, this is the deck that I win the most with. This is the best. I think under either of those two circumstances, it can be okay to force, but we'll put force in quotation marks, like have a strong proclivity towards a certain archetype.
All right, well, he's open to Tempest Djinn here in pack number 2, a Skittering Surveyor as well. Danitha is our legend.
Yeah, for me, Tempest Djinn is a slam dunk. Similar to the Steel Leaf Champion, this is a card that you can play it on turn 3 and get an easy win, but even if you're playing it on turn 5 or 6, it's still an amazing flying creature that can win the game. Given that Chris seemed to be hesitant about the triple color card in pack 1, he might have a different viewpoint on these cards than I do, but he does decide to take it there.
All right, Tempest Djinn, the pickup for Christoffer Andersen, pack 2, pick number 1. Here in our draft of the morning, U.S. Nationals, there's a Slimefoot in this pack. Taking a look, still looking for his red or blue cards. And
poor Chris.
There's nothing.
I think this is just unlucky, too. I mean, it's a strong pack, but it's all cards of colors that he can't use. I mean, sometimes I would look at it something like a Hinterland Harbor here, but he doesn't really want to splash if he's playing a blue-red aggressive deck. It doesn't go well with the Tempest Djinn. I guess he can take Warlord's Fury, or he can just jump ship.
Wow, what do you do here?
If I'm in this position, I'm going to take Warlord's Fury and just say, you know what?
I made a decision.
I made my bed. I'm going to sleep in it. It's like I'm going to stay on track for Blue-Red Wizards and see what I can put together. When the draft is going badly, that's when you really can't afford to dance around and waver and take off-color cards, because you're hoping to just barely cross the finish line in terms of number of playables.
This pack a little better for him.
Oh, much better. Yeah, this is one of the absolute best cards that Chris could get. Narumeha, Master Wizard. Perfect for Blue-Red Wizards. Perfect for turning your middling cards like Tolarian Scholar into real threats. Paired with Opt or Warlord's Fury, you can get some card advantage, and paired with stronger stuff like Wizard's Lightning or Shivan Fire, you can do some real damage with this card.
Have you drafted the mono red deck in Dominaria?
I have, yeah. My teammate Andrew Cuneo has he drafts like he's a high volume drafter. We'll put it that way. And that's one of his favorite decks to draft, just slamming the Gitu Lava Runners and the Flames of Keld.
I think it's sweet.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun and surprisingly effective.
All right, Gitu Lava Runner seems to be the only thing that Chris might be interested in from this pack.
Yeah, I think he should take it. It's an example of a card that his deck can make better. It's a pretty bad card that his deck can make good use of, put it that way.
And better than it looks if you manage to get a nice, powerful Wizards deck as well.
Yeah.
There's another one here.
I certainly agree with that.
Keldon Overseer. Is that a card where... Oh, the sap herd. Is that a card that you're interested in putting in this kind of deck? The Overseer?
Sure, yeah. I would play the Overseer if I had it. I think the Lava Runner is a little bit better for what he has. I would take that, but the Overseer is a fine card that'll make his deck as well. Boy, it's really wild that green has been flowing from both directions.
Yes, isn't it?
Normally you think if you pass a lot of insane green cards late, that somebody to your left is gonna take them and you won't see green in pack 2, but that's just not the way it's proven here. Green seems to be generally underdrafted at the whole table.
This is a very interesting pack here. A foil Karn's Temporal Sundering in here has tempted no one yet. A Tolarian Scholar, though, would be a bit more on brand.
Yeah, this is an interesting pick because Syncopate or Tolarian Scholar are cards that are for sure going to make Chris's deck. He has one Narumeha as a legend, but his draft is going kind of badly, so speculating on a card like Karn's Temporal Sundering, you could win the lottery and turn a mediocre draft into something really great if you get 2 legends in the third pack. But I would do the same thing as Chris. I would take Syncopate.
Here's another Syncopate in this pack and a Relic Runner hiding around near the back. Not exactly the shell for Relic Runner, so it looks like he's going to take a second Syncopate. Would you run 2 in a draft deck?
Yeah, especially in Chris's draft deck. He wants to get out ahead and somehow find a way for his weaker cards and weaker deck to beat a stronger deck, and getting ahead and sitting on a Syncopate is a great way to do that.
There's a Merfolk Trickster in this pack, and there Urza's Ruinous Blast that we saw BBD kind of sadly pass draft previous. All right, and it's going to be the Trickster. A handy little card that can prove to be pretty tricky, live up to its name.
Yeah. So this pack is definitely going better for Chris. Narumeha is a slam dunk amazing card, and he's picked up some nice stuff. The Double Syncopate, the Trickster, those are all good cards. I don't know that this pack has gone well enough that I'm happy to be in his seat, but you know, things are getting a little better. He is a workable deck now.
That Hinterland Harbor comes all the way back around. Hammered Explorer Rescue. He's just going to pick up the Harbor here as we get towards the end of pack number 2.
Sure, that's an example of a pick where it would be really useful to be able to look back at exactly how many playables you have. You're hoping not to play with Hammered Explorer, but I also wouldn't want to finish the draft with only 20 blue and red cards and be like, oh, I really wish I had,
right,
a crummy Hill Giant to round things out.
Run Amok, the pickup here, a card that I think works very well in this kind of deck. Another Hammered Explorer, a wall, and an elephant. I'm remembering BBD's draft, and I feel like I saw an Adelies somewhere in pack 3, but I can't remember where.
Ooh.
And the final card there from pack number 2, wrapping it up here for Christoffer Andersen, one of our undefeated players here on day 2. Taking a look through what he's managed to assemble, like you said, pack 2 going a little bit better for him, but he's still got a lot of work to do, right, Reed?
Yeah, he's still got work to do. The Tempest Djinn, I forgot to mention. That's another really nice pickup. So he has now 2 cards that, like, when he's able to draw and cast them, he's going to have a significantly higher chance of winning the game. And then he picked up some good filler. The Syncopates are going to be really nice, especially against defending himself against stronger late-game type decks. So, yeah, this is coming together.
I got to point out what I kind of think is a glaring absence from this deck so far, and that is any kind of removal whatsoever.
Yup, not even a bounce card to speak of. I certainly agree with you there, Maria.
So definitely going to be looking for cards like Shivan Fire, just any kind of cheap removal to sort of swing the tempo in your favor when you're playing this kind of deck.
Yeah, and this is where the dynamics of the table really hurt Chris. So he has reason to believe, I think, that someone passing to him is drafting red based on the cards that he has seen and, more importantly, not seen. And sometimes that's okay. If you're drafting a particular archetype deck, you can get your Gitu Lava Runners, your Gitu Journey Mages a little bit later in the pack, because even sometimes other red drafters will take different cards. But if someone is drafting red and passing to you, you're not going to get Shivan Fire. You're not going to get past that, later than pick 2 or something like that. But Chris would absolutely love Academy Journey Mage. Blink of an Eye would be a solid pickup. If he can get, 2 of those tempo cards, I think he's going to round out his deck nicely and certainly be able to win some games.
And that's an interesting insight, too, thinking, well, I didn't get hardly any red past me. The chances of me even opening or getting past a Shivan Fire are so low, and that informing how I make my picks in pack 2, I think is pretty interesting, too.
Yeah, so I could see Chris opening a Shivan Fire and a Strong Creature and not knowing what to take and being like, you know what, this is going to be my absolute last chance at a Shivan Fire, so maybe I'll go out of my way to pick that. But
how do you feel with Chris's, what it appears to be kind of, he really favors the red-blue Wizards deck in this format in Dominaria. I think it's great. Where do you put it on the scale?
Well, I can tell you that most of my teammates that I prepared for this format with believe blue-red to be the absolute best deck. When you and I were talking yesterday, I said that I have a soft spot in my heart for black-green Saproings, but I think pretty clearly those are the 2 best archetypes, and a lot of really great players just love blue-red, so far be it from me to say anything different.
Well, you know what? Doesn't matter what color you're in here. Icy Manipulator is in this pack.
Absolutely.
Academy Journey Mage as well would be a fine pickup if this Icy wasn't in there, but here it is. Boom, Icy Manipulator. Just an excellent card in Dominaria. some say a little too good.
Yeah. An excellent card in any format it's ever been legal.
What if it costs 2 to tap?
Would be a little worse, but still really good.
I definitely played against somebody recently that had 3 in their pool.
Oh, no.
I mean, what is the upper limit on how many icy manipulators you'll play in a draft?
I've never seen it, I'll tell you that much. All right, some workable cards here. You can take a Journey Mage, another Skizik, or an Opt. Opt is strong with Gitu Lava Runner and Narumeha, but it looks like he takes Gitu Journey Mage, which I have to say I agree with.
Is the synergy point here just so much higher that you are willing to take this over something like a Skizik, which people might say base level is more powerful?
Sure, it's synergy and it's mana curve. Skizik is a strong card that you want on the top of your curve, but you don't want to have like 4 or 5 of them, because then you might miss your 5th land drop, or you might be behind by the time you start casting them. But curving a wizard into a Gitu Journey Mage into a Skizik is a lot more of what Chris wants. So just the basic premises of mana curve and aggression.
Divination, the pickup here for Christoffer Andersen. An excellent card in Dominaria, and it tells you a lot about a set when Divination is good.
Yeah. Divination is remarkable in this set in that it's good in both the slower controlling decks and the faster wizards decks, because they're so interested in having spells and filling the graveyard and seeing more cards out of their deck. So even in a deck like Chris's, where he's looking to beat down and attack his opponent's life total, he's pretty happy to take a turn off cast Divination.
Fiery Intervention, the pickup here, and we mentioned him not having any removal in his deck. Well, here you go, the first piece at 5 mana.
Yeah, definitely. That's a card that he's really happy to see.
Don't forget 2 modes on Fiery Intervention. You can destroy a target artifact as well. A lot of times when you're killing a Guardians of Koilos, either will do. Get to Chronicler here, my favorite card of Dominaria.
Is that right? Your favorite card?
Yes.
Yeah, Chris will take it and he'll play it here, particularly because it's a 2-drop wizard that enables his Gitu Journey Mages. He doesn't have that many great spells, though. That Fire Intervention is likely his best target.
Oh, what about Divination?
Yeah, that works too.
Yeah, I just love feeling the value flowing through my veins as I flash back at instant or sorcery. Jaya's Immolating Inferno is my favorite one, though, gotta say. Keldon Raider here is a card that doesn't look like too much on the face of it, but has turned out to be perfectly fine.
Yeah, I think you should take it here. His deck is one that's not going to make great use of lands beyond number 5, so I think the Keldon Raider's ability is pretty often going to be, effectively drawing a card. I would for sure have taken it over Ezdir Glider there.
The Glider, I don't know, it hasn't done a lot for me. It is an artifact, which sometimes can matter in your historic decks. All right, a pick here between Divination, another Keldon Raider. What do you think?
Well, I think Chris is probably going to take Divination, but I would take Keldon Raider. I think Keldon Raider is just actually like a really strong card in his deck, and it's, sort of bread and butter, like what he wants to be picking up at this late stage.
And it's interesting, too, to think about your deck's particular weaknesses. And you mentioned this deck doesn't want lands beyond land 4 or 5. Like, that's it. Any more are just dead.
Right, so Divination is card advantage, but in a deck like this where you don't have any looting, you don't have any uses for your extra lands, if you top deck Divination in a top deck battle, turn 6, 7, 8, you're probably going to cast it and draw 1 land and 1 spell, so it's like you just cycled into something new. It's okay, I'm not sneezing at Divination. I would for sure play it, but I think Keldon Raider's, at least the second copy of Divination, is weaker than Keldon Raider. Looks like he's going to get another shot at it, though.
All right, so chance number 3, but no, it's not going to be.
No, he just doesn't like the card as much as I do, I guess.
I ended up liking it a lot more than I thought I would. When I initially saw it and started playing the set, I was like, why would I want to play this? And then somebody played a few of them against me, and then I realized it took a tough beat to understand why Keldon Raider should have been higher in my pick order. Okay, as we come to the end here of pack number 3 for Christoffer Andersen, we wanted some removal. We got 1 piece. We got a few more cards for our deck. There's a Tolarian Scholar, so Nice pickup here as we get to the final few cards in the pack. What do you think of what he's put together overall?
I think it's below average, but workable. I think Chris has 3 really strong cards in Tempest Djinn, Narumeha, and Icy Manipulator that he's gonna win an abnormal amount of time when he's able to resolve those cards. He has a passable curve of aggressive creatures, but I think from our bird's eye view, it seems to me like he's probably a little short on playables, or at least cards that he's excited about.